Hey everybody, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio, where we talk about the Beatles all the time and we welcome lots of special guests here. And we have two very special people here who were on my channel not that long ago, probably about this same time of the year. Because for many years now, they have put together something very, very special in Massachusetts, which has been called Harrifest. We call it the George Harrison Tribute. Many people know it as Harrifest. And they're here to talk about that and also do that new feature that I started called The Deeper You Go, where I asked my guests to come up with 10 tracks that are deep tracks by one of the Beatles. In this case, it'll be George. Songs that were not singles, songs that they feel deserve merit, deserve recognition, are favorites of theirs, and to explain why. And these two people who put together Harryfest are Wayne and Rachel Cabral. And welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks for having us, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of unique because in this case, normally when we do a Deeper You Go show, we have one guest on. But Wayne said to me, in true John Lennon tradition, Wayne and Rachel is one word. So for that reason, they decided to come together here as a team, no pun intended, and they're going to give us five each, five from each of you, or 10 that you
Yeah,
decided
five,
together.
five each. We'll see how it goes, but five each is what's planned. I feel there'll be a crossover here and there. So
Okay.
Real test of our marriage to
yeah,
see if we're on the same George wavelength.
I don't want the two of you fighting after this, you know,
Oh,
no,
with the choices that you have.
might fight during it.
yeah, you never know.
That's
Or
okay. But
get
afterwards,
back.
all right. So before we do that, tell the folks about Harry Fest and how it all started. How many years has it been now?
Well, this is actually our 20th year.
Wow.
We, yeah, we started in 2004. So this was going to be the 20th event. This year it's going to be November 2nd is our big Harry Fest concert. That's a full evening of bands, seven bands and performers throughout the night. And then we also have a little VIP party the day before. We have
Mhm.
some people who just really love to come down early, start the party, come together, say hi to their friends. So we do something called the night before VIP party in Savoy Truffle Dessert Bar. And basically what that is it's a night of music and desserts. I put out an all-you-can-eat dessert buffet, and that's included in your ticket price. We have some music, and we've done different things throughout the years. We've had bands, we've had speakers. This year, we're smaller and we're just doing, a couple of acoustic acts.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, mostly it's just people, they just want to, catch up with their friends and talk and, say hi. And so that's Friday, November 1st, and the big concert is Saturday, November 2nd.
Right. Now we should point out that even though it's a tribute to George Harrison, you will hear music from the other Beatles, and sometimes you even mix in songs from artists who were influenced by the Beatles.
Yes.
So, it's something different in that respect. And one of the things that I love when I listen to all the different acts, it's the different approaches. You can have one person on acoustic guitar doing a whole set. You had one guy last year who played the ukulele automatically meant, oh, Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea is going to be in there. Did he play Ramon? I'm not sure.
Don't
But
remember all, but
Maybe.
maybe. Why wouldn't you?
I
okay.
remember somebody played it. I remember hearing it last year, but I'm working, so the songs kind of go by me sometimes as I'm running around. But
Okay. And you have your band called the Onos.
hmm
It's actually spelled OH hyphen NO apostrophe S.
hmm
And you play a mix of Beatles and solo, and you go deep into cuts, which is my favorite thing. But you also play a lot of the hits as well. So how do you go about from year to year deciding which songs you're going to do? Are there certain songs that you consider staples that you have to do, and then you'll throw in a few choice
No,
songs that are favorites of yours? And
no, it's pretty much anything goes. There'll be a committee meeting at some point, as bands tend to be small committees. We'll all throw songs in a hat, and whoever has the best kind of song that maybe we've never done before, That one will be included. Maybe bring back some of the favorites that we've done in the past. I know there's a few you really like, and we like to do them for you. You know, so I won't mention any of them because they may appear on our list.
Okay. Yeah. And also we should point out that the money that is raised for this does go to a charity.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, well, basically, we decided that, this was a great event and we always had, good sales. And we said, well, what can we do with the money? I mean, we don't want to keep it. It's not us. We don't, we do this, for George's name. So we thought, why not donate whatever's left over once we're done paying all of our bills to charity? So we donate it to either American Cancer Society in the beginning. But then for the last few years, we've been donating it to hospice. They're local, they're hands-on, they're the people that really do the hard work. And when I reached out to them, they were thrilled to have us. And since then, they send somebody to the event. They donate items to be raffled. They promote the event, and they just really enjoy that we do this on their behalf. So they're a great fit for us.
Yeah, and many of the people who attend donate items too to be
Oh,
raffled.
yes.
So there's a lot
Everything.
of great stuff to buy there.
Mhm.
And it goes to a great cause.
Exactly.
Now, remind me, because the last time you were here on this channel, I asked you this. Are Olivia and Danny aware of Harryfest?
I believe they are. Maybe not personally, but at one point, our event was actually listed on the official georgeharrison.com website. For a while there, they had something, a page that was dedicated to upcoming events or events in George's name, and we made it on. How? I'll be honest, I'm really not even sure. I think there was somebody who was a mutual friend who said you should do this, and it was on there.
Hmm.
It's not anymore, but I only think just because the event had happened, they took it off as things actually had happened. So, I mean, I don't know how hands-on they are, but I mean, it was definitely on the official George Harrison website a few years ago.
Hmm. And when you started doing this, why did you pick George as the Beatle to honor?
Um, George is probably our favorite Beatle. I know George is Rachel's favorite Beatle.
Hmm.
You
Uh-huh.
could ask me on the day, and you might get a different answer. But generally, George is my favorite Beatle as well. You know how that goes. Um, and George died of cancer. Rachel's dad died of cancer, and we tied the two together.
Hmm.
Okay. That's a great reason. It's great to honor any of the four Beatles, and you can find a million reasons to honor each of the four Beatles. But
Rachel's
I'm
dad.
glad I'm glad glad to see George's name out there in any way, shape, or capacity. So it's a great
That's
thing that you're doing. And we'll remind everybody it's November 1st for the
the night before.
night before. That's a great, perfect title there. And November 2nd, it's at White's in Westport,
Yep,
Massachusetts. And we will give you folks the Facebook page for this and the website.
perfect.
Thank
Well,
you. Yeah.
okay. Now, for everyone, I think I've said this in the other podcasts that I do. Whenever I see the Onos, they always perform "Don't Let Me Wait Too Long" because they know that it's a favorite of mine, and I don't want them to feel pressured in any way that that song has to be in their list. So
It
don't
isn't
feel.
threaten us if we
Um,
don't play it. So,
yeah, I don't want you to think that I'm expecting it. So
well, it's
each of you,
probably on the list this year.
okay, it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
Okay, you can even have some honorable.
But
So,
for other reasons other than you like it.
okay. Well, the most important thing is to explain why these are your favorites.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh.
Should I start there?
Okay.
Yeah. Should
All
each
right.
of you alternate one at a time?
All right. Let me
Do it
kick it
that way?
off. Let me kick it off with the single that never was. Don't let me wait too long.
Okay.
Love it, love it, love it like you do. Love George's pop sensibility on it.
Hmm.
Something he didn't stress all often enough, I think. That song is just beautiful, verse, chorus, verse. Very much like a John Lennon song, even. Very sweet, very beautiful. The only thing I was never crazy about is the recording of the song from that period. For him, the recording's not as pristine as some of the others, but it's still a great pop song, and it shines through whatever whatever melodies it might have. Just a
Hmm.
great song and one of my favorite non George singles.
Okay. When you say it's not pristine, you're just referring to the production?
Yeah, yeah, maybe not the greatest production of a George song ever. It's
Hmm.
nice enough, but there are many that are way better.
Okay. So would you say you're really looking forward to the remix of Living Within
Oh
My
God,
World?
yeah. Oh God, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That song in particular, yeah.
Okay. I never really thought of that album as needing any improvement, but then I'm just so used to those recordings that
Yeah, I am as well. It could use a good mastering. A good mastering will bring out whatever's missing in that recording for myself.
yeah. Have you heard the new alternate take of Give Me Love?
I have.
So
Very nice.
that's certainly a much clearer
Yeah.
sound.
That's what I'm looking for Don't Let Me Wait Too Long.
Okay.
Same treatment.
All right. So do you agree with Wayne's choice there?
I do. And
Okay.
I agree with it, but and it's not on my list. So that's
Oh
so
goodness.
we picked two different
That's a
ones.
shocker.
Okay.
Okay.
It's one of my favorites to
I
play.
don't know her at all.
I told you this was like the newlywed George Harrison edition.
The Newlywed Game.
Yes, the newlywed game.
Um, one of the things that was mentioned in probably Talk More Talk, one of my podcasts, was that even though George didn't work with Phil Spector at this time, although Try Some Buy Some is left over
Right.
on the album, um, Don't Let Me Wait Too Long has a bit of a Spector feel and like an early Ronettes type
Yeah,
sound to it. Would you agree?
I do agree. In the way that there must be 20 acoustic guitars playing like there is on My Sweet Lord. It's the same kind of recording process. There's a lot of everything and a lot of reverb. So it's Spectre-ish in
Yeah.
that manner.
Yeah, there's a lot of songs that Phil Spector didn't wasn't involved with, but they still sound like a Phil Spector. Like Mind Games to me has a Phil
Yeah,
Spector.
very, very much so. Very
Yeah.
much agreed.
Okay. Rachel, what's your first pick?
Well, I'm gonna say I did two sets. And one was how I felt. One of my favorite thing about George is the angst and the anger and the power. And then the
Hmm.
other thing was his beautiful melodic love songs. But let's start out with the angst. So for me, it is a little cliche, and I hope this isn't a single. I looked this up just to make sure because I'm not great with that. But the song that I always loved was Wah Wah.
Okay.
And the reason I love it is because it was just so in your face. And you could tell how angry he was, at the end of the Beatles and how things were happening and not being taken serious. And you can hear that in the layers of the guitar, the pulsing of the drums and his vocals and obviously the lyrics. I mean, he's pretty plain that he's angry. But that to me was a song that you can really see because he was coming into his own and he was going to be taken seriously because he knew how good he was. And he wasn't going to let anybody tell him that he wasn't. And for me, that's pretty much it. It's just a ferocious song, but in a good way. And so that's the first of my picks on the Angry George. But yeah, Wawa. And it's a fun song and it's a great song to sing to and it just rocks. And it's angry, but yet it rocks and yet it's fun and you can tap your toe. So and that's hard to make a point and be angry and yet still be a fun song.
Right. I think it's a powerful statement when George opened the concert for Bangladesh,
Mhm.
that song of all of his songs. But yeah, it was written when he walked out on the Beatles during the Let It Be session.
Yes.
So,
Hmm.
and most of us feel it's written specifically about Paul, although George would say it was about the whole situation with the Beatles and Apple at the
Hmm.
time and not pinpoint Paul. But you can easily look at it lyrically and think that it's about Paul.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent choice.
Hard to disagree. Very hard to disagree.
Okay.
Not on my list, but certainly an honorable mention.
Okay. All right.
Me?
What's your next song?
Ah, I'm gonna keep to that album, and I'm gonna go with the song that really rocks off that record is "The Art of Dying."
Mm,
Um, Maybe my favorite, depending on the day you ask me, maybe my favorite George Harrison song. Period. Um, just for every reason imaginable.
yeah.
The recording is wonderful. The guitar playing is amazing. Vocally, it's incredible. The construction of the song is like no other. And I hate to say this about George, but like Rachel just said, not a lot of his stuff purely rocks, but this song purely rocks.
Hmm.
Wah Wah as well. Those two songs purely rock, and they deserve a very high standard in this canon for me.
Yeah, it's very powerful lyrics. You
Yeah,
know,
great
just
lyrics.
him, talking about his philosophy of life.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And there's so many lyrics there that we can all relate to as
Mhm.
well. The things that seem so very plain become an awful pain.
oh,
Yep.
I
how,
love those words.
how wonderful is that?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You love the brass in there too, the way that was all arranged.
Everything about it, Ken.
Everything is, yeah.
Everything about it. That song is just a miracle.
Imagine if he had done that one live. Oh,
Oof.
I could never see why he wouldn't. I
yeah.
mean, he had Clapton in the band. He could have, you know, what could have been?
I know. I know. I
Probably a time constraint more than anything else. But yeah,
if you take a look at what he did in Japan with Eric, he went a little bit deep.
he did go a little bit
Enough.
deep. Yeah, not deep enough.
Yeah.
No, no.
But Devil's Radio, which did get a lot of
Yeah,
airplay when Cloud Nine came out. You
yeah.
um yeah, I mean, is any Beatles song deep?
Yeah.
Piggies might be considered a deep track to a lot of people,
He
but
did Piggies.
yes, I know. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, but you never know if he had continued and toured in any way. And you always hear he didn't really like touring after his experience in 1974, and yet he did the tour with Eric Clapton and his band. Um, if he was to continue doing any kind of concert at all, what he might have picked.
Mhm.
Although Live in Japan shocked me for so much Beatles. Was really
yeah, yeah.
surprised.
I think the record company got to him and said, "Hey, George, remember those guys, the other three guys you used to play with?
Yeah.
Maybe throw some of those in there." And,
Mhm.
you
George
know,
said, "Remember what you did on the Best of George Harrison, which made me so furious?"
yeah, true that.
Uh, all right.
Over
You're
to you.
next, Rachel.
Well, ding, ding, ding. Art of Dying is on my list too.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
that song, you asked, you said we had to explain why we liked it, and the song is just so good that I don't have words to explain why I like it. I mean, that opening guitar is just it's brilliant and it just hits you. And the Onos have played that song, and my husband plays that lead. And there are times when he plays that lead and I just watch and I forget to play because I'm just mesmerized by how amazing that sounds. And then when everything kicks in and the vocals and the harmonies and it's a harmony and then it's an octave and they're singing and the vocals are just so perfectly accented just in the right spot. It's everything about that song is just perfect. I agree with Wayne. And again, it rocks. It's ferocious and yet it's about something very spiritual and reincarnation and coming back and living your life in a way it, there's nothing specific about the song, and yet everything about the song is perfect. It's just a feeling when you hear it. You hear that song, it just hits you. To me, it kind of gives me a little chill every time I hear it, and I never get tired of hearing it. So that song is on my list, and it always will be. To me, one of the greatest songs ever.
It's kind of an added level to
Yeah.
this too, because there are songs if you play like in a band that we play in,
Hmm.
some songs you just love to play.
Mhm.
They're just fun, flat out fun to play. That song
Right.
is flat out fun to play.
And when you listen to an album like All Things Must Pass, and I always defend Phil Spector's production on that album because it was, I think, what the songs really needed. I know
That was
some
right for
people.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, but when you have that spiritual feeling and you feel like you're in a church or something and you have that echo or reverb or something, it creates, like you said, Rachel, it's like a chill. It's like
Mhm.
you feel like you're in the room. It's that atmospheric. And
Yep.
it's really it's what the songs called for. You
Mhm.
know? And the word commercial is not a dirty word in my book. And yet I think that even though it was far ahead of its time in what he was saying lyrically,
Mhm.
that song could have been a hit. You know,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was a lot more to All Things Was Past than My Sweet Lord and What Is Love
Mhm.
that could have been hits to me.
at the very least, a great FM radio track, a
Hmm.
great album-oriented radio track.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Great choices so far.
Ah,
They're
don't
all
tell
going
me.
to be good.
Yeah,
I
they
didn't
really.
mean so far. All right. You can only run so far.
That's true.
All
Yes.
right, I'm gonna jump a few albums ahead with my next one.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with "Soft Hearted Hannah,"
Hmm.
and
Interesting
one of my
choice.
very favorite songs for a few reasons. The fun aspect of George's songwriting,
Yeah.
just a fun track, a really, really fun track. And how often do those guys get to write about acid trips, which is just beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, and it, to me, George's stuff is a vibe. That song has that George vibe, that George mood
Mhm.
that
Right.
sets you into it. And there's one other song on my list that is also there for the same reason. But George is able to hit a mood that the other Beatles can never hit, and that's what sets him apart from the other two guys as songwriters. He's got a mood to his stuff where John and Paul are just tremendous technical songwriters, but maybe they can't find that mood that George has. And next couple of songs for me have that mood in them.
Okay. And I love the fact that being about an acid trip, it's pretty obvious that it is.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
he kind of spells it out there.
He does. Yeah, I love the honesty about it.
All right. Do you like the very end of Soft Hearted Hannah when he changed the pitch of the song? And
Oh, it's great. Yeah, I love that. I love trickery, studio trickery. That's wonderful for me. Yeah.
yeah,
I love all the talking in the background and the party atmosphere. That's all part of the mood that he's trying to create, and I think it works really well. And of course, if you've ever been on acid, sometimes things go faster.
So you've
a
heard.
bullet
Yeah,
from a
so I've
gun.
heard.
No, the first time I heard that song, Soft Hearted Hannah, I thought there was something wrong with my record. Oh, but it's obviously intentional. So,
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
okay, Rachel, number three.
Well, I will say Soft Hearted Hannah almost made my list. And it was like if you said 6 songs, that probably would have been number 6. So I have to totally agree with Wayne. That song is just, again, it's beautiful.
Uh,
But that's not my next song. Going back to my angry-ish George, and back to All Things Must Pass, I went with Run of the Mill. And I love Lennon, I love Paul, and as Wayne said, they're amazing songwriters, and I will never ever take anything away from them. Their songs are great, they're tremendous. But Wayne's right. George just he writes things that like hurt your soul, but in a good way. Like you just feel.
hmm,
Sometimes it's happiness, sometimes it's sadness, sometimes it's both, sometimes it's every emotion. And that's when I hear Run of the Mill, that's how I feel. And what's amazing to me is the song, is somewhat angry. I mean, he was sad about what was happening, to his friendships, people who he had known his whole life and grown up with and how everything had happened. But yet the song is so melodically beautiful. So it's just a really, mix of this beautiful melody that could have been a love song. I mean, and in a way, it was kind of a broken-hearted love song to a friendship. So the lyrics are a little more brokenhearted and angry, or what could have been, but the music itself is beautiful. Um, and I found a quote that I wanted to read. A gentleman who wrote this in a magazine said, "Harrison's light has been hidden under the egos of McCartney and Lennon. From time to time, there have been hints on several of their albums that he was more than he was being allowed to be." And I truly believe that. I know George was younger than the other two, and I don't think he ever got taken quite as seriously. And
hmm,
I think finally towards the and maybe in the beginning he wasn't as aggressive and assertive. But when he came out with these last few songs, there was no denying how powerful and strong he was. And he's every bit the writer of any of them. And again, and he used that talent not only just to say beautiful things, but to create the most amazing melodies. And like I said, I hear a song and I'll say, that's my favorite song. And then the next one, no, that's my favorite song. And
hmm.
because they all speak to you. But Run of the Mill is definitely one of my absolute favorite George songs. The timing is unusual. The way he sings it, trying to figure out like how to play it and where he breaks. It's unique. It's complicated and yet simple. And there's again, it's hard to verbalize because it's complicated and simple and angry and sweet and beautiful and messy. But that's George.
Yin and yang.
Yeah.
You know, that's so well said. The beautiful and simple. I sometimes relate that to a lot of Beatles stuff where you have a lot of time signature changes,
Hmm.
and yet it seems so natural
Hmm.
to what they're doing, like in Good Morning, for example. Who writes a song that has, different time
Hmm.
signatures that go back and forth quickly, and yet it sounds like it flows so perfectly that way, And the same thing with Run of the Mill. The one thing about Run of the Mill for me, and this is a song that has become absolutely one of my favorites of his.
Hmm.
When it first came out, I liked it. I thought it was good, but now I just think it's so
Hmm.
brilliant.
Spectacular.
The lyrics by itself,
Hmm.
forget about the music.
Yeah.
The lyrics work as
Hmm.
Yeah,
beautiful poetry,
wonderful
you know,
poetry.
and it's so rhythmic in the words itself,
Hmm.
So it's when the lyrics stand out by itself as a separate piece of work, regardless
Hmm.
of what you're doing with the melody, that that's a powerful, powerful thing, a powerful statement. Um, Run of the Mill is absolutely wonderful to me.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think it's Olivia Harrison's favorite. I think she said that in an interview.
I believe she did actually. I did see that. Yep. And I
Yeah.
agree with her. She'll be
Good.
happy to know.
All right, Wayne, you're
I'm
next.
gonna hop over to Living in the Material World, and I'm gonna take a song called "Sue Me, Sue You Blues,"
Hmm.
one of
Okay.
my all-time favorite George songs.
Right.
Uh, Again for the mood, and you gotta love a song about the other guys in your band where we're kind of all together in this.
Uh-huh.
And another very angry kind of George song. It's all in there, and the guitar playing is extraordinary. His slide work, I mean, his slide work everywhere is extraordinary, but
Hmm.
the acoustic slide work in this, I believe Roy Cooder's on this as well, is just tremendous.
Hmm.
It's beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Okay. Also, Jim Keltner's drumming is outstanding on that song.
Always, yeah, always. He's present in everything.
Yeah.
He's felt all over All Things Must Pass and all over Material World, and yeah, he
Well,
was there for a reason.
you know how I feel about that album. It's my favorite album of all time. And
Is it really? I
Hmm.
didn't know that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think That Is All is one of the greatest love songs that's ever been written by anybody.
It's a beauty.
It's on a par to me with Something. And
Wow.
I think that, most people would disagree with that, but I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. I wish That Is All was a single.
Hmm.
The fact that Andy Williams covered it,
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
you something. It's like, if Frank Sinatra was to cover one of your songs, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
If someone of that caliber thinks that highly of a song like that. Harry Nilsson covered That Is All.
Hmm.
But all the deeply personal stuff on Living in the Material World, the light that has lighted the world, who can see it, be here now. Um, I've often said it's like his Plastic Ono Band.
Hmm.
Yeah. It
Yep.
really is his Plastic Ono Band. I never looked at it that way,
Hmm.
but yeah, I see it.
Maybe not production wise. It's not
Oh,
stripped down the way
yeah.
the Plastic Ono Band is, but what he's saying is as meaningful to him,
Yeah.
as
Personally.
personal as Plastic Ono Band was to John. So,
Yeah, for sure. I love the record. I love it all.
yeah.
One of my favorites. It's actually the first George album I ever owned
Huh.
as a child. So I wore it out like nobody's business, and it never left me.
Right.
It's
Still
it's
hasn't
that
left.
record, you know. So yeah.
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 I've probably played that album more than almost any album.
Oh, I've worn that out too. So many copies.
Hmm. Rachel,
Well, I'm glad you brought up
next.
love songs because we all
Okay.
know George was a fighter, but we also know he was a lover.
Hmm.
So I said, I'm going to go. My next two songs are going to be George Harrison, beautiful love songs. And I mean, something. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But we're talking post Beatles. So I said, and I really wanted to go with basically songs about Olivia, only because I think in the end, She really understood him. So the first song I picked was "Beautiful Girl," and I think if I'm right, he originally wrote it. At least the opening line was written for Patty when he was married to Patty. He wrote
Right.
the opening line, and then really didn't get much past that. And he put it aside. And then after he met Olivia, he revisited the song and then rewrote it and kept the same line, which is pretty funny. But then from there, he wrote it for her. And again, there's the timing issue. That song, the timing on that song is so, I mean, just when you think you got it, you're like, oh no, okay, there's the change. It's beautiful, and the guitar again, everything about it, it's a vibe. It's the love song every woman wants to have written about her, and it's not even just that she's a beautiful girl. I mean, yeah, it's okay, she's a beautiful girl, it's the opening line, but then he just talks about what she's done for him and what she means to him. It's more, it's spiritual. It's more than just the physical part. It's everything that she is, more
Right.
than what she looks like. And then you add, that guitar in the beginning, and the crazy time changes, and the beautiful vocals. And again, it's just a vibe. It's just a beautiful mood. I mean, in some love songs are just, that's a nice love song, but I mean, you can feel and hear how much he loves her and respects her just by listening to that song. I mean, the time it took to create that music,
Hmm.
that has to be for somebody that you truly love, and you can just tell that. And that's why that was my song that I picked for my first favorite love song of George's, post Beatles, after something.
And there's the demo of that from All Things
Mm,
Past.
Mm.
So it tells you how far back. It's like
yep,
69, I think he was starting to write that one. He talks
yep.
about that in I Me Mine. So yeah, that's a great one. I've said this about love songs and the stereotypes that the Beatles have been given, that John Lennon could write as great a love song as Paul McCartney, and Paul McCartney can write as great a rocker as John Lennon. Well, same thing with George Harrison. He could write a love song just as great as John and Paul,
Hmm.
and a rock song just as great as John and Paul.
Hmm.
You know, I wish he did more rockers,
Hmm.
Yeah,
but when it
I
came
agree
to
with you.
love songs, he's got some of the best.
A quick little aside from a musician angle, George's songs are by far the most difficult of all the Beatles stuff to replicate. I don't know if you get that a lot from people that you talk to, but I've been doing these songs all my life, and George's songs are by far the most difficult.
The chord structures are different. They're more advanced, the layering. I mean, obviously all the Beatles have great technical, I mean, then, different parts of their songs, but George's like layering is off the charts. And his like you said, his time signatures,
His
his
time
chord
signatures are way off the
progressions,
Hmm.
charts.
just the different things that he used. His songs are just mechanically, if you just strip them down to the mechanics of the song, the chords, the structure, they're quite significant.
The
And,
best way to put that, George has his own inner drummer that the other two guys didn't have. He has a different inner drummer. You know,
Interesting.
or an
yeah,
inner light, maybe.
Since since Paul plays drums a lot,
Hmm.
yeah,
and thinks has that feel of a drummer,
Hmm.
yeah,
saying that. But yeah, and also George has a lot of dual guitar lines,
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
which, what are you going to do? You need two guitar players to play that at this. It's very hard for one person to play both at the same time.
And the slide work. The slide
Yeah,
work sets him apart from just about everybody, really.
And some double drumming songs where there's lots of
Yeah.
overdubs and
Oh, yeah.
parts too that
Yeah.
you got to try to pick what's the main line to play and replicate, unless you have two or three drummers. And like you said, again, just going back to Wah Wah, there's like what, 30 Georges playing
Yeah.
guitar,
Yeah.
which
How many guys have you heard play slide guitar? When you hear George, you know instantly it's George.
oh, definitely. He has a style that's all his own.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
and there are
that's
people that try to sound like him,
Mhm.
yeah.
and that's a tribute to George himself. But there's a huge difference between
Mhm.
everybody else and the sound and the style and the playing. And a
Yep.
Mhm.
lot of that could very well be because George also played the sitar, and the way
Mhm.
he played the notes and probably had to um, push down on the strings. Maybe
Mhm.
that had something to do with the way that he plays the slide.
Yeah.
It's harder
Maybe
just
the Indian influence in general.
yeah.
Yeah.
That as well.
Not only that, but I was just thinking of there was a word that couldn't come to me before, but with run of the mill, there's syncopation And
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
that's
syncopation
it.
is hard to describe to people that aren't, music majors, but when you're attacking certain words or a rhythm in the song, like it's everyone has choice
Mhm.
when to and not to raise it's not
Exactly.
strict 4/4 time, if that even is 4/4. What is run of the mill in? Probably 4/4.
Six
But
eight.
It's in George time.
Yeah.
okay,
33 and a third time.
okay. Uh, George does that a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's,
So,
Beautiful Girl has that same accenting the vocals, like you said, with the syncopation, which is really cool.
hmm,
Yep.
all right. We're down to our last song.
oh boy, I've got two here. I'm gonna pick one of them. Um, all right, I'm gonna go with this one. Staying with the fun George vibe. Going Troppo.
Oh, nice.
I just love Going Troppo. There's just something about that song that makes me so happy. It makes me
Hmm.
happy to hear it. It's super fun to play. And it's a song I wanted to contact Jeffrey about to see if because I know that's his favorite George album.
He never told me that.
He mentioned that on stage at Harrifest last year. He said, this is my favorite George record.
Huh.
The year before, actually.
Okay.
But I know if I'm ever going to get to play that song with anybody, it would be him. So, so I know he knows it, and I know it pretty well too. So I would love to at some point get together with him and make that happen. That would be fun for me.
Oh, he'd be into that.
Again, the big party vibe, the super fun George song. The guy you want to have a beer with, or
Uh-huh.
that. I like that George. We
Right.
don't see that George enough. The fun George, the George that all his friends talk about, the George that Tom Petty talks about. You know, that this guy is just a blast. We love going over his house. We pull out ukuleles and we play, and just
Uh-huh.
just super fun, George. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Jeffrey, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is my stepson. So he has performed several times at Harry Fest, and
Mhm.
Nice.
he is scheduled on that Saturday on November.
Mhm.
You can get to see him play. He's an amazing singer too.
He really is.
Yeah. But the one thing about Gontrapo, it's just the album. And I could say that about a lot of the Dark Horse albums that George did. Man, the production is stellar.
Oh, so
Yeah,
good.
everything so crisp.
Yeah.
All the instrumentation, whatever was used, you really feel like you're there on an island with George.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, you can see the palm trees and everything swaying,
He was
all
so
the
great at
talking going on.
capturing the vibe, capturing the feel of
Yeah,
where he is, what he's doing, what he wants you to
Mhm.
hear,
right.
and you get it.
Definitely. When I hear something that relaxing, it's kind of like Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very, very much so. And
Yeah,
I'm not a huge Buffett fan. I love this from George. I do. I
Yep.
love this angle from George. I love that songwriting that makes him really come across as a fun guy.
right. Okay. Another great choice. So we're down to you now, Rachel.
Last, okay. Well, I will agree. What Wayne said. George paints an emotion, and I think that's an important thing. Like what he's feeling in every song. All right. So my last song is "Dark Sweet Lady,"
Oh,
and I don't know why I like that song. I mean, it could be just because I don't know, just the dark thing. I don't know. But there's something about, again, the lyrics, and I can see George writing this song and singing it to Olivia, and I can just see, I don't know, again, it's just a beautiful way of showing love. And I just love the way it sounds. I mean, again, it's another song. I can't tell you it's the lyrics, it's the music, it's the timing, because it's the lyrics, it's the music, it's the timing, it's the
right.
vibe, it's the it's all of it plus more. Maybe me because I have dark hair. I don't know. Maybe I want to imagine it's about me. I don't know. Maybe there's some crazy thing in there that I should be talking to my therapist about. But I just like it. It's just a beautiful song and a great love song. And again, not your typical "oh, she loves me, I love her" love song.
Right.
It's a deeper love song, and I don't know. I just like it. It's just a good song.
Yeah. To me, that's a real stunner.
Hmm.
Mm.
There are no two love songs back to back that are any greater than Dark Sweet Lady going into Your Love Is Forever.
Hmm.
God,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh
I
God, yeah.
mean, two completely gorgeous songs. And I love the Spanish guitar solo in particular in Dark Sweet Lady. And there's the sound of George's voice when he's singing. It's a big octave.
Yeah.
And I'd let go. It's like that leap right there. It's so beautiful, you know? Um,
Such a Beatle-y chord progression too. It's got that early Beatle augmented diminished thing going on in it as well, which makes it just wonderful. It's kind of a throwback song, but with a Spanish feel.
Hmm.
right.
Really, really beautiful.
All right. Those are all excellent choices. You have some honorable mentions there?
I have one in particular. I didn't want to leave 33 and the Third out because it's probably my favorite George album if I had to pick one.
Can I
Pure,
ask why? Why is that your favorite album?
probably because I got it the day it came out and I was looking forward to it. I was a rabid Beatlemaniac as a what would I have been? I would have been 14 when that came out, and I was waiting for it. And
Uh-huh.
when I got it, it just blew my mind entirely. Um, I'll get to that in a minute, but uh, the song I picked from it is Pure Smoky.
Mm,
Again, for the mood, just for the groove. George has a vibe like no other musician, and that song just is so smooth, like Smokey was. He really, really nailed Smokey's whole thing with that tune, and it's so beautiful. I can listen to it on a loop still. Great song.
there's all those references in there of Smokey songs.
Yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
it's wonderful. The whole thing of it is such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tune. Big
Yeah.
fan.
There's one thing that I've commented on in some of the podcasts about George's music. He's a lot more versatile than people give him credit for in the styles that he's written in.
It
Hmm.
is.
I think certainly going back to something like Far East Man,
Mm,
there's a light jazz vibe, and maybe that's Tom Scott's influence. I'm not sure, but that's when
yeah.
he was starting to get to know George. And certainly on a song like Pure Smoky, you can feel it.
Hmm.
Um, Learning How to Love You has got that kind of feel, very light jazz.
George really was fond of those jazz guys, especially Tom Scott, like you said, and Willie Weeks. He
Uh-huh.
loved Willie Weeks as a bass player.
Right. Yeah. And of course, he came to know them from being in Joni Mitchell's band, and they played on Harry's on Tour, the studio recording of Harry's
Another
on.
honorable mention, by the way,
Hmm.
for me. I love that piece.
Yeah. And I think they played on Simply Shady too.
Yep.
So, yeah, but Pure Smoky, wonderful song.
You got
Again,
it.
unlike just about everything else that George wrote at
Yeah.
Yeah.
that point.
You got an honorable mention?
Most of my honorable mentions you kind of covered,
No.
like Soft-Hearted Hannah. Um, Again, like catch me at a different day, a different time, and I'll tell you what my favorite George Harrison song of the moment is.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's always like two or three that are always in there, but depending on, again, I hear a song and I just think it's so beautiful, and then that's my favorite George song, and then somebody plays the next one, and then that's my favorite George song, and then it just goes on, and then I just love them all. It's
All
I
right,
can't.
I got a question for you, Ken.
Yeah.
One song, George's masterpiece. What do you pick?
Oh, okay.
There's too many of them. Oh gosh, I'm a very big love songs guy.
You are, yeah. I've
And
noticed.
I love That Is All to death. I love Dark Sweet Lady and Your Love Is Forever. I love Learning How to Love You. I love Never Get Over You.
Oh, great song.
Uh there's a lot, and then there's the spiritual side of him. You know, for a love song, I would say That Is All.
Okay.
For a very spiritual song, The Light That Has Lighted the World.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
beautiful.
And the ironic thing about that song for me is that if you follow what George said in I Me Mine, it was originally written for Cilla Black. It wasn't written
Mhm.
for himself. Because the whole idea was that, her fans were thinking, oh, she's become a big star. She's not a Liverpool girl anymore.
Mhm.
She's moved on. She's London. She's, big time and everything. And he was writing that from the perspective of someone that's moved on.
Mhm.
That is not the same person that, in this case, she used to be. And she didn't end up recording that. So he ended up doing it himself. But
Right.
it works in that
Yeah, yeah, it does.
As you apply it to George's life,
Hmm.
he's thinking, I'm not a Beatle anymore. It was a part of my past, but I've moved on.
Right,
And I'm grateful to those who recognize that, which is what Who Can See It is all about too. They're
Hmm.
really, lyrically saying the same thing.
right.
So, but I love everything about The Lightest Light of the World. It's so understated. Nicky Hopkins' piano part in the middle.
Shout
So
out to Nicky
Hmm.
Hopkins.
absolutely perfect. The same way that Nicky Hopkins is perfect with everything that he does. Jealous Guy in particular.
Yeah,
Um, those songs would be it, but on any given day, All Things Must Pass could be the greatest thing that ever.
Yeah.
The song, the album, All Things Must Pass is packed with so many great songs.
Hmm.
I've often said the only problem I've ever had with All Things Must Pass is why did you need version two of Isn't It a Pity?
yeah, that's
Should
true.
have should have put I Live for You in there instead.
Yeah,
But I'm sure there's a lot of people that like version two a lot.
Hmm.
But I would probably pick those two, That Is All and The Light That Has Lighted the World. Notice what album it comes from.
yeah, of course.
So yeah, those would be mine.
Okay, for me, Crackerbox Palace. Crackerbox Palace
Yeah.
for me is George's absolute recording masterpiece.
Okay.
That song is a masterpiece on every level. It's everything. It's the sound of that tune is par excellence. It is amazing. The
Right.
drumming is incredible. Everything about it, the sense of humor, the recording, his vocals, the slide work,
Uh-huh.
everything about it. That song, when you put it on, it still jumps out of the speakers. The second the drums hit, now it's
Right.
wow. It's just to me, that's his absolute all-around masterpiece.
Interesting. I love the song to death, but there's no way I can ever separate that song from the video. In the beginning, I see George coming out of the baby.
Yeah,
You know,
and because Eric Idle's in there, and
Yeah.
I'm a huge
yeah,
Python fan as well.
me too.
Everything about that just
Yeah.
that hits me in every single way, every single way.
And also that little bit that George snuck into the song with "It's Twoo, it's Twoo."
It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
It's true.
A a
Sense
mandolin
of humor.
Madeline on in there.
Yeah.
We don't get his sense of humor enough.
Yeah. But I just hope everyone's aware where that comes from.
Yeah.
From Blazing Saddles.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great song right there. But why is 33 and a third your favorite album? Let's get back to that from George.
Uh, my two favorite singles, that and this song.
Uh-huh.
I was just
Great
gonna bring up
video.
this song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this song is tremendous. You notice you don't see bands covering those tunes. There's a reason for that.
Because of the
Uh-huh.
time.
Very, very, very difficult to cover. You
Right.
need a big band. I mean, you can get by with the All Things Must Pass stuff with a small band. You can kind of, with enough reverb and stuff, you can make it sound good.
Yeah.
Those songs, if you don't have the stuff, you don't have the stuff.
Right.
They're very difficult to play. The timing is very difficult. Everything about them is really, really hard. But that doesn't play into my choice really. The difficulty of play, that's not really why. It's just because they're just amazing songs.
Yeah.
Tunes. The pop sensibility in each one of them is off the charts.
And the sense of humor in
And the sense
this
of humor.
song.
Yeah.
Again,
Oh yeah. This.
I mean,
come
everything
on.
about it
This
is
song-
creative, and I mean, you can just see George is just, he's taking the piss out of everybody. He's just
Yeah.
like, hey, yeah, this song, like, come on, he's challenging everybody.
He
He's,
makes fun of himself.
Yeah.
It's
charming. It's charming,
The public loves it when he shows his sense of humor like
Yeah.
very much so. Yeah.
that. For the years when people thought, oh, he's just so serious. He's so negative about the world, and 33 and a third to some people is like a breath of fresh air. And
Yeah.
very easy if you weren't brought up on All Things Must Pass or living in the material world or Dark Horse and Extra Texture. If 33 and a third was your introduction to George Harrison, it's going to have a tremendous impact on you.
Yeah.
Because at that time, he did all that promotion. He was on Saturday Night Live. I always associate, that album with, that's my favorite episode ever of Saturday Night.
Yeah.
Sure. My God. Yeah. How can it not be?
I always wish that he and Paul Simon did more together because they sounded so good together.
Yeah.
and playing the videos, which always sounds so damn muddy.
Yeah, and they look kind of fuzzy too, unfortunately.
Yeah. They
That's
got
like
you know,
70s camera work,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. All right.
Also for me, 33 and a third is his best sounding record.
Hmm.
The production on that record is really, really good. It's really clean. It's really bright. It's really, really nice. I love it. It's a great listen. It's a great listen.
Well, you got George and Tom Scott to thank for that.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Tom Scott proved to be a very good producer for George.
Yeah, he was.
All right, so this has been wonderful having the two of you on again.
Yeah, this was a
Well,
ball.
thank you.
We should do this more often.
Absolutely.
Get more people from Harrifest on this channel.
Yes,
I
definitely.
had Chachi that one time. Chachi was
Yes.
sure going to be there.
Oh yeah.
So if you know Chachi, who's hosted his own Breakfast with the Beatles show in the New England area, especially the Boston area, he's
Mhm.
there. He's always fun to hang around with. He has his usual trivia, as I do as well. And I will be there on the Saturday. And if you can, please come up and see me. We'll hang together and listen to all this great music
Sounds good.
and make
Thank you.
fun of Wayne and Rachel here.
Oh, please.
They love abuse.
They do. We do.
We
Yeah.
do. I came from
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on here.
Thanks for having us. It
Thank
was
you
a
for
ball.
having us. Yes.
Thanks to everybody for watching. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
Love one another.
Peace.